Well, hello, USANA United. I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. And today is Ask a Leader Tuesday. So I thought I would go on because I got one question so far that I literally could write a book on this question. I'm not kidding you. But Shelly asked me, basically, what do I tell athletes, and how do I share USANA products with them? Well, my focus has been over the last almost 9 years is getting coaches educated, trainers educated, talking to parents, talking to athletes. And I work with athletes at every different level. I've got a guy that's just finishing up his season that plays professional basketball over in Japan, all the way down to parents of 9 and 10-year-olds. So, my message is gonna vary depending on who I'm talking to, of course, the age level. But since I've spent a lot of my life coaching in youth sports, the best way that I found to do it when I'm working with athletes that I'm training is for me to have a one-on-one conversation. But let's say most people here maybe in USANA are not coaches, so they don't have that extra time to spend with athletes, or maybe you know them because it's a parent of an athlete or something like that. So what I would recommend that you do is one of the key things that I always educate on both parents and athletes, because when you're having a conversation just like you are when you're prospecting for USANA, you're talking to people, is just asking them a lot of questions, finding out what their goals are. So if it's a young athlete, I'm always asking them, a young or old, like what are their goals? What are they trying to achieve or accomplish through their sports career, whatever level they're at? And then I tie USANA into it, because if you want to be the very best athlete that you can be, one of the things that I've shared with parents and I share with athletes is that it takes you being really great at a sport. So you have to develop sport-specific skills. That's number one. The second thing that you have to do, and this is kind of like the evolution of coaching. I've been coaching for over 25 years. So when I first started coaching, the emphasis was on sport-specific skills, developing those skills so that you could be really good at a sport. Then you saw the influx later on, about 9 or 10, I would say within 9 or 10 years after I started coaching, you started seeing strength and conditioning becoming more and more important in the world of sports. Okay, so nowadays, that's the norm, is that kids are doing core training, they're doing strength training, agility training, speed, whatever those different things are. So that would be the second thing. If they want to be a really good athlete, they have to work on the strength and conditioning portion to be the very best, right? And to have an edge when it comes to sports. So then what you're starting to see more and more of now is sports psychology, right? The mental part of the game. So I talk to the athletes or parents or coaches, whoever I'm talking to, and I talk about that. So those are the three main things if you want to be an excellent athlete, if you want to get the edge, because over time, being an athlete, it has evolved, and it gets harder and harder and harder to rise to the top. And so I think that it's really important now that you have these conversations. So again, it's sport-specific skills. And I know you guys are thinking, why you're giving me a lesson in athletes. No, I'm giving you the important nuts and bolts of how you need to talk to athletes and how you need to talk to coaches or trainers or parents. So number one, it's the sport-specific skills. Number two is the strength and conditioning portion of it. Number three, what you're seeing now becoming very, very important is the mental part of the game. So that's why you're seeing so many sports psychologists. That area is starting to grow. So if kids want to be their very best, now they're even getting into the mental training. So what I tell my athletes and coaches and parents and trainers that I work with, okay, what fuels all of those three things if you want to be the very best? Because how many other people are working on their sports skills that are your age? Probably all of them. How many of these other ones are doing strength and conditioning? The majority of them, if they want to move up. How many of them are attacking and preparing the mental part of the game? That's the new evolution. But what fuels all of it? And that comes down to how you're treating your body, and that comes down to the nutrition. So when we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about, of course, your macronutrients, which USANA is fantastic. If you're dealing with girls that are athletes, or even boys, a lot of them are not getting enough calories throughout the day. Girls will still skip meals in the morning. I work with a lot of sports organizations and volleyball clubs because that's been my background. So a lot of these girls are actually skipping breakfast. They're skipping meals. They already have body image problems. I was up in Houston a few months ago to talk to one of the clubs that I work with, and there was this young girl that was in 7th grade. She came over to the table. I had a USANA table set up, and she was already saying that she needed to lose weight. And you guys, she did not need to lose weight at all. But that is a big concern when you deal with female athletes, is their self-image and how they look, and because they're always comparing themselves to other people. So our NutriMeal shakes, or our My Smart shakes, those are great options for kids that don't want to eat. Some kids, if they're at a tournament and they're in between, if they're playing basketball or volleyball or a sport like that, a lot of them don't want to eat something really heavy because it makes them just feel weighted down or nauseous. So USANA's NutriMeal, the kids love them. So that's a great thing to talk to them about it. The other thing is your micronutrients. And when I talk to parents or I talk to coach, how many kids are super picky eaters, right? They are picky eaters. So making sure that they're taking the basics, at least the USANimals or the Body Rocks, or if it's, an older athlete, 17 or older, 18 or older, the Cell Essentials. And then I always recommend the fish oil as well. Fish oil helps in vitamin D. Those things are really important for athletes. But making sure that athletes are getting optimal levels of nutrition, that is huge. So you've got to just give them those examples of how it's going to help them achieve their goal and how important it is. I talk to athletes about, okay, how many times are you gassing out by the time it's a 2-day or 3-day tournament, or it's the end of practice and you're gassing out? Well, you're running out of gas, right? And I talked to them about the gas being their macronutrients and their oil being their micronutrients. So I tell them, it's super important you're getting optimal levels of those micronutrients. So getting them to be on the USANimals, Biomega Junior, it's super cost effective. A lot of parents, if you're talking to parents, they're spending and investing a lot of money in their child and for them to play sports. I know in club volleyball, it's a couple of grand easy for a season. That doesn't even include private lessons. It doesn't include their strength and conditioning, and it doesn't include the travel either. So when I talk to those parents or I talk to organizations, I'm like, look, these parents are investing a ton of money in their child to play a sport. So why wouldn't you encourage them and educate them on getting a high quality multivitamin and fish oil, good meal replacement shakes, taking care of their health? Because ultimately, that is super important. I talk to them about hydration. I talk to them about sleep and recovery and how important that is. When you're dealing with high school and college athletes, talking to them about sleep is super important because a lot of them are, because of their training schedules, they have their school. They also have their training that they're doing for their sports. They're traveling if they're in college as well and in high school. So talking to them about their routines, their daily habits, and making sure that all the time that they're investing in being the best athlete that they can be, if they're competing and they want to go on and play in college, it's, top maybe 5% of high school athletes go on and compete in college. So talking to them about wanting to see, do they want to go on and play in college? Do they want to play for their middle school team? Do they want to make that top club team? What are they going to do? What are they willing to invest to be the very best? Because everybody's looking for the edge. The edge is going to be how well they are treating their bodies so that they can be the best. Because like I said, when it comes to sports, everybody is out there training the skills. Most of them probably are out there training the strength and conditioning portion of it. Some of them are doing the mental training, but all of them need to be doing the nutritional part and taking care of their bodies so that they don't gas out, so that they can get that extra rep in. So those are the things that I talk to my athletes about. I talk to coaches about it, about how important it is. 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, I felt like I was Noah building the ark. Like in the sports world, nobody had time for it. People didn't want to listen to it, but people do listen now. They are, because it's, antioxidants is like a buzzword now. Everybody's talking about it. Protein. Everybody's talking about protein. So that is what you're going to continue to see, is that people will continue to have to elevate their game for when it comes to being competitive. So when you're talking to athletes, finding out what their goals are going to be critical, making sure that, you can show them the value, because if you can educate them to where they understand why is it important, then that's going to make a huge difference. So how do you get your message out? That's going to be up to you and how you talk to those athletes and how you prospect and find people. But talking to coaches, educating them is really important, talking to the parents. But again, I think it's super important that if you're dealing with younger athletes, you've got to have those conversations with them. From the time that my son was 2.5 years old and he saw me doing it, me modeling, taking the vitamins, me drinking a shake, he wanted to do the same thing. So kids will model what they see. So if you're dealing with a parent that has younger kids that are athletes, that's a great way to get the whole family on the product, is saying, look, your kids are going to do what you do. So making sure that they understand why. And like my son, all I had to do was tell him, hey, it's going to make you, do you want to run faster? Do you want to jump higher? Do you want to be stronger? That's all it took for him. He was like, yes, yes, and yes. So if you ask those kids, depending on what age they are, and you tie it in to who they want to be, they'll listen, and they will be diligent in making sure that they're doing and following the process or whatever type of program that you give them. But I hope that helps. I hope that it makes a difference in for you guys and how you talk to people. But it's always the key thing is always going to be to educate, find out what their goals are, tie their goals into how USANA can help them accomplish those goals. So I will still be here checking in on the thread that I posted earlier today. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. And I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.